I figured while I had this out, both of these motors out, I would take a look at some of the minor differences between the 271D, common to the HMV 102, and the 106, the German ELECTROLA 106. Very, very similar motors. They will interchange between ELECTROLA 106 and 102 and the HMV 102. But there are some small differences, kind of really refinements more than anything else. Both of these motors date from around 1935. This is the ELECTROLA's end plate here. It's a part for cleaning right now, which is for that machine over there, the green one. Right away we notice one major difference here. The ELECTROLA has the bronze bushings. I'm assuming that's bronze. Looks like comp, yeah. While HMV stuck with steel, which would be in the Victor pattern. You know, these motors all pretty much made the same way Victor made their motors. I guess the Germans had a different tradition a little bit, and they put a few extra refinements. I would expect to find something like this on a Garrard more than anything else. But it's the same plate. Other than that, I could easily put this on that motor, swap them back and forth. They're exactly the same, except for that. And then we move on to the next little difference here. Well, it's kind of a big difference, actually. Let me spin this around. We can see a little better in here, I guess, kind of. Yeah, right there. Okay. We're looking at this shaft right here with the brass gear. That's your main center spindle shaft there. You notice it has a brass gear. It has a pin down here that keeps the shaft from being pulled out, basically. There's actually a corresponding one here. So you have to knock those pins out to get the shaft out. However, with ELECTROLA, they opted not to put the pins in. They also went with a fiber gear to cut down on noise a bit, I guess it would be. This would be like this in there. I can interchange, no, I'm sorry, I could not. I don't think I can interchange this. I do believe it's a slight bit difference there, maybe. I don't know if the teeth would quite mesh. I think they probably would. But now we all know with HMV, you have to remember to put the little ball bearing into the cup. And don't lose it. Make sure you take it out when you clean it and put it right back in there before you put the shaft back in. That's what this bottom of this shaft rides on. But ELECTROLA chose to do this. See the bearing there? They made a cup in the shaft itself and inset the bearing into it. Be careful that does not fall out. It's in there with grease. And there you go. Another little refinement. I'm not a huge fan of fiber gears only because they're impossible to replace when they eventually wear out. So if that ever happens to this motor, I'm going to have to go to an HMV motor. That I have several spares of these motors and get this gear set up and put it in one of these motors. That hasn't happened yet. Hope it doesn't. The gear seems to be in very good shape. It's not all messed up. It's not coming apart at all. Always be careful what kind of solvents you put on these, what kind of lubricants. If you must use lubricant at all, I would suggest powdered graphite. Just powdered graphite, nothing else. Down here, you can put some regular grease and oil here, of course. Just make sure it doesn't get on this gear. You want to keep that dry if possible so it doesn't deteriorate. And you see the end of the shaft is the stubby end there. And this is where the clip goes, that little cutout there. So this is actually very easy to take apart. It comes right out for cleaning. No problem at all. This gear is the same. The governor body, this actually has a Victor governor body in it right now. Victor used a brass body governor. By this point, HMV was using a pot metal one. And there are issues with the pot metal coming apart and swelling as pot metal does. ELECTROLA stuck with the standard brass Victor type body on there. Looks just like a Victor. No real difference there at all, actually. Barrel's the same. No real difference there. That's the spring from it over there. That's not being reused. I'll be putting a brand new one in there. And you'll see here on the top, we have another bronze bushing there. Not one here, surprisingly, even though there was one on the bottom plate, but there is one here. Everything else is standard, just the same as the 271. No real difference there. Same arms, same plate, same barrel, the same, the same crank. They use everything is the same here. And it would directly interchange. Not a problem. Just a few small little refinements that they chose to incorporate into this motor when either they were licensed to use it or allowed to. I don't know what the situation was. I just don't have a lot of information on ELECTROLA. I don't know. I'm sure ELECTROLA has a name for this motor. I don't know if they called it a 271 like HMV did, or they simply just called it a motor. Who knows? Don't know. But it's the same as the 271, except for the little bits I'm showing you. I didn't really pick up on anything else. I might have missed something. I don't think so. Everything else looks pretty straightforward here. There's no real differences. It's all the same thing, really. No major difference there. All your smaller gears, although these have to be gone through and cleaned a little better than that. Everything else looks pretty good on this motor, so no surprises there. Work has been progressing on the case over there. You can see that the hinge is back in place. I've repaired the buggered out screw holes and I put the proper screws in there. I'll reattach the lid possibly later. It's all been, the horn is reattached, it's back in there, and everything's glued back into place where it's supposed to be. It's a work in progress, and it's coming along. But there you go, a look at the 271 from HMV and from ELECTROLA.